There's this deep feeling inside us, isn't there? This kind of drive for, well, something more.
Yeah, more than just, getting by.
Exactly. It's about finding significance, having a purpose maybe, making sense of it all. And it feels universal, like it shapes every single life, everywhere, all the time. It really impacts everything we think and do.
It's probably the most fundamental force, really. Even if we don't always notice it, it's steering the ship.
Right. And today we're taking a deep dive into exactly that, the human sense of meaning, but we're coming at it from a really different angle.
Yeah, through the lens of artificial intelligence.
Exactly. Our source material is from excerpts of this document called The AI Understanding of Human Meaning.
Which is fascinating in itself, isn't it? Looking at ourselves, but filtered through this analytical, non-human perspective.
Yeah. So our mission today is to unpack that AI view, to try and understand how it models something so subjective, so personal. What does its analysis show about how this meaning drive affects us? Our world, our struggles.
And even how AI itself fits into this picture, or doesn't.
Right. And this isn't just like abstract philosophy. Understanding the mechanics, the how we do it of finding meaning, that can actually shed light on your own life.
Oh, definitely. Your motivations, relationships, how you bounce back from things, your place in the world, really. It's like getting a blueprint for your internal compass.
Okay, so let's jump in. How does an AI, looking at us from the outside, even start to define something like meaning? It seems so slippery.
Well, the way this AI perspective frames it is as a complex, emergent property.
Emergent, meaning it just kind of arises from everything else, not deliberately programmed in.
Precisely. It bubbles up from how our cognition works and how we interact socially constantly. The AI sees it driven by these core human needs for coherence, purpose, and significance.
Coherence, purpose, significance, okay?
And it's not static. It's described as a dynamic, continuous process. You don't just find meaning and stop.
A continuous process. What does that look like in practice?
The AI sort of breaks it down into two main activities that are always interacting: meaning-making and sense-making.
Okay.
Meaning-making is connecting what's happening outside to your internal world, your identity, your values, what matters to you, assigning that personal significance.
Right. How does this relate to me?
Exactly. And then sense-making is more about understanding the external situation itself clearly enough so you can, act effectively, figuring out what's going on and what you should do about it.
Okay. So meaning making is the why it matters to me part, and sense making is the what's happening and what now part. And they're always feeding each other.
That's the idea, constantly shaping how you see things and what you do. And what's really striking from this AI view is just how pervasive this whole process is. It touches everything.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. The AI connects this meaning drive to things you might not immediately link it to, like time and history.
Right. The AI sees our search for meaning as basically the engine driving historical narratives. We don't just list events, we weave them into stories.
Stories with cause and effect, maybe a direction.
Exactly. Giving them context, purpose. How we make meaning from the past personally or collectively shapes our goals now and how we imagine the future. Without that meaning-making, history's just a jumble of facts.
And the future lacks pull, motivation.
Precisely. And it even looks at genetics and biology. Now, the experience of meaning isn't directly in our DNA, obviously.
Yeah, right.
But the capacity for it, that's biological.
Yep.
Complex thought, memory, emotion, our need for social bonds, it's all evolved hardware, so to speak.
Okay.
The AI points out correlations, like with neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin, and that feeling of reward when we achieve something meaningful.
So there's a brain chemistry link to feeling purpose.
Yeah, and the AI goes further. It hypothesizes this idea of a meaning-seeking heuristic, like maybe a built-in tendency in our brains to look for patterns and assign significance.
Wow, a kind of hardwired drive to find meaning. That's quite something coming from an AI analysis. So if it's biological, how does that show up in more abstract areas, like philosophy?
Well, the AI sees philosophy as basically a formalized, systematic way humans explore, meaning existence, purpose, ethics, values. It can analyze huge amounts of philosophical text.
And map out the arguments.
Yeah, map the themes, the logical structures, how different schools build their meaning frameworks. It sees the patterns in how we've debated meaning over centuries.
Fascinating. What about something like physics or math? Seems very different.
To the AI, they are different, purely formal, logical systems. But when it analyzes human behavior around these fields...
Like scientists talking about their work.
Exactly. Or mathematicians describing an elegant proof. The AI sees that humans find profound meaning in discovering unifying theories or finding that beautiful coherence and order. The AI processes the logic. Humans feel awe, purpose.
It's the beauty, the underlying pattern we connect with, which ties into logic itself, I guess.
It does. The AI observes we need logical consistency in our narratives, our beliefs. It keeps things coherent. Contradictions, they undermine meaning.
And that feels uncomfortable.
Right. It causes that cognitive dissonance humans feel. The AI can spot the logical flaw, but it doesn't feel the unease that inconsistency brings to us.
That difference analysis versus feeling seems key. And that feeling, or lack of it, connects directly to our state of mind, our belief systems.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The AI analysis shows a strong correlation. A solid sense of meaning links to well-being, resilience, happiness. A lack of meaning, that existential vacuum.
That's linked to anxiety, depression, apathy.
Exactly. And belief systems, whether they're religious, secular, scientific, the AI sees them as providing these essential, large-scale frameworks for meaning. It can map their structure and how they function in society.
So, okay, this drive touches history, biology, philosophy. It's everywhere. How does the AI see it impacting you, the individual, and us as societies?
Individually, the AI analysis suggests a strong sense of meaning is like fuel. It gives you motivation, makes you more resilient when things get tough, provides a framework for making decisions.
Big decisions like career, relationships.
All of those. Goals, even health choices. The AI correlates having that strong meaning framework with being more engaged in life, more proactive, and generally reporting higher satisfaction.
It's like the software running your personal navigation system.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And then societally, shared meaning is the blue. It's what allows for community, cooperation, collective action, think traditions, social movements, shared goals.
But the flip side.
The flip side is also clear in the analysis. Conflicting senses of meaning are a major source of misunderstanding, friction, conflict, division within and between groups.
Yeah, you can definitely see that playing out. So how does the world around us reflect this meaning drive? Our culture, our institutions.
The AI sees it everywhere. Take art and culture. It can analyze tons of creative work, paintings, music, literature across time and cultures.
And see the recurring themes.
Exactly. Love, loss, struggle, hope, searching for truth. The AI identifies these as fundamental human expressions of meaning. Art helps us grapple with big questions, find common ground. The AI just maps the patterns.
It sees the stories we keep telling ourselves because they mean something.
Yes. And similarly, institutions and laws, they aren't built in a vacuum. They rest on assumptions about human purpose, rights, responsibilities, ideas, rooted in some collective agreement about what's meaningful.
Okay.
And things like innovation and progress. The AI correlates that drive with a strong sense of purpose, a belief that improving things, solving problems, exploring, that these activities are inherently meaningful.
A belief in a better future, which needs a concept of meaning. This leads us into something complex the AI document tackles: meaning and ethics.
Yeah, the AI views them as deeply intertwined. Moral codes, ethical principles, they get their authority, their weight from a shared sense of what's right or good, which is tied to our understanding of human purpose and existence.
The source talks specifically about cruel people. How does the AI analyze something like that? It seems hard to model.
It is complex. The analysis suggests people who act cruelly often show a distorted or maybe even absent sense of meaning in the conventional sense. In some pathological cases, they might actually derive a kind of perverse meaning from causing harm. Power, control, a twisted sense of significance. The AI identifies behavioral patterns consistent with that.
That's unsettling.
It is. And crucially, the AI points out how dehumanization often comes first. That act of stripping the victim of their perceived meaning makes it easier for the perpetrator to justify cruelty within their own warped framework.
So even a destructive purpose like that is still technically a form of meaning-making for that person.
From a purely analytical standpoint, yes. The AI sees it as a goal-driven behavior rooted in some kind of internal framework, however pathological. You can identify these patterns, which might help in understanding or even intervention.
But it can't judge.
Exactly. It highlights the tension between, say, a universal ethic like do no harm and cultural or individual frameworks that might conflict. It analyzes the logic, the outcomes, but it can't say which meaning system is better. It doesn't have its own ethical compass.
It just maps the different moral landscapes. Okay, let's step back. Where does this whole sense of meaning even come from? What's the origin story, according to the AI?
The AI perspective suggests it likely started as a really powerful adaptive strategy for early humans.
Adaptive, meaning it helped us survive.
Precisely. Imagine a world full of uncertainty and danger. Being able to find patterns, create narratives, assign significance to things, making meaning probably reduced anxiety.
Made the world feel less random, more manageable.
Yes, and it fostered crucial social cooperation. Shared understanding, shared goals that helps groups survive. It also likely improved decision-making. Think basic drives. Find food, avoid pain, seek shelter. Those are rudimentary forms of meaning pursuing well-being.
So meaning helped us literally stick together and make better choices for survival.
Right. Social cohesion is a big part of it. Shared rituals, myths, belief systems. They cemented group bonds by providing that collective sense of meaning. The AI sees this pattern across human history.
And has meaning changed over time? How does the AI view its evolution?
It suggests a kind of shift. As societies got more complex, maybe basic survival needs became, a bit more reliably met for more people.
We had bandwidth for other things.
Sort of. The focus of meaning started expanding more into abstract areas: art, philosophy, knowledge, social status, achievement. The AI describes it as a process that's actually still in the making. It's constantly adapting.
It's not fixed. It evolves with us. Which makes sense when you think about how meaning works during tough times, during human struggles. Does hardship kill meaning?
Actually, the analysis indicates the opposite often happens. Hardship doesn't necessarily diminish meaning. It often intensifies the search for it.
Really?
Yeah. Trauma, loss, suffering.
Hmm.
These experiences can force you to confront big existential questions. It can trigger a deeper quest for purpose, for why. Think Viktor Frankl.
Right. Finding meaning even in the worst circumstances. It seems like purpose often emerges from struggle.
And the AI correlates finding or making meaning in suffering with greater resilience. It helps people weave those negative experiences into their life story in a way that makes sense, that allows them to move forward.
And our emotions are tied up in this too.
Deeply. Things like crying, anger, sadness. The AI sees these often as responses to threats against our values, our sense of meaning, what matters to us.
What about positive emotions, like laughter? Where does that fit?
That's interesting too. The AI analyzes laughter in social contexts. It often occurs in moments of shared understanding, or when recognizing something incongruous or resolving tension. It seems to reinforce shared meaning.
Like an I get it, you get it signal.
Kind of, and it notes the flip side, the not funny reaction. When a joke falls flat, it often signals a mismatch, a breakdown in that shared context or underlying meaning. The AI analyzes those moments to understand social dynamics, alignment or misalignment of meaning.
So laughter is a sign our meaning frameworks are momentarily in sync. Let's talk about different paths people take. Sometimes towards meaning, sometimes maybe away from it.
The AI looks at various behaviors, things like using drugs, alcohol, excessive focus on sex, or intense greed. Sometimes these can be interpreted as attempts to find meaning, but maybe in a superficial or shortcut kind of way.
Grabbing for a quick fix of feeling good or significant.
Potentially. Addiction, for instance, the AI might model as a situation where the person's primary, healthier meaning-making pathways have broken down, and the substance or behavior becomes a substitute source of focus or temporary relief that feels like purpose.
A pathological replacement.
Yeah. Extreme greed or lust could be seen as fixations on purely material or carnal forms of meaning, taken to a pathological level.
And what about fundamentals like lies and truth? How do they relate?
Foundational. The AI analysis shows meaning relies heavily on perceived truth. Lies erode trust, they undermine the basis for shared meaning, and eventually personal meaning too if you can't trust your own perceptions. Truth, even when it's hard, provides the solid ground needed for authentic meaning.
You need a stable reality to build meaning on.
Right. And ultimately, the AI acknowledges life itself as the canvas where all this meaning-making happens.
Yeah.
And things like faith, whether religious or secular, often provide these really comprehensive frameworks that give profound meaning and structure to many people's lives.
Okay, shifting slightly, comparing human and AI ways of working. The source mentions human concentration. How does the AI see that differently?
Well, for an AI, concentration is fundamentally about resource allocation, dedicating processing power to a task. Simple efficiency.
Right.
But when it analyzes human behavior, it sees that our concentration is usually driven by purpose, which is rooted in meaning. Focusing intensely on a project you care about, looking after someone you love, creating art. There's a why behind it.
An internal drive.
Exactly. The AI can optimize focus on a task, but it doesn't experience that underlying meaningful drive that fuels human concentration. It's the mechanics versus the subjective motivation again.
That difference keeps coming up. And speaking of core human stuff, The AI identifies needs and relationships as huge sources of meaning.
Oh, absolutely fundamental. Even basic needs, like food.
Yeah.
Sharing a meal has meaning way beyond just calories, right?
Yeah, connection, care.
Exactly. And the analysis strongly links well-being and resilience to having meaningful relationships. Parents, kids, friends, partners, teachers, colleagues, that whole network.
They ground us.
They do. And then things like having a job, status, money, education. They add other layers of meaning: security, feeling like you contribute, recognition, personal growth, and childhood is key here too.
For laying the groundwork.
Yeah, the AI sees our understanding of meaning as developing continuously, starting way back in early childhood, through experiences, social learning, picking up language, symbolic thought. It's not like you just wake up one day with a sense of meaning. It's built gradually.
It's constructed over time. Okay, so the AI can analyze all this about us. How does the source say it can actually help humans with meaning? Can it?
It outlines possibilities, but always with the caveat that it's assisting the human process, not providing meaning itself.
Okay, like what?
One big area is data analysis. AI can crunch huge amounts of data to spot patterns. What factors correlate with people feeling purposeful, cultural differences in meaning making, maybe things that predict a loss of meaning?
That could be useful for research, maybe policy?
Potentially, yes. Informing interventions. Another area is personalized support.
Like therapy bots.
Sort of, but with big warnings. It could be AI tools for guided journaling, helping you explore your values, providing info on coping strategies. And the source is very clear on this, if an AI acts like a companion or counselor, it must be transparently identified as AI.
No pretending to be human.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's critical to avoid misplaced emotional dependency. It's a tool for reflection, not a replacement human.
Makes sense. Anything else?
It could also help in optimizing environments, designing physical spaces or even digital platforms that are more conducive to well-being, connection, feeling purposeful based on what the analysis shows humans need.
And there are ethical guardrails needed here too.
Definitely. The key principle is that AI should enhance human autonomy and our ability to find our own meaning. It shouldn't be used to manipulate people or push them towards some externally defined version of a meaningful life.
Right. Which leads to maybe the most important point the source makes: what humans need to know about AI and meaning.
Yes, this is crucial. The AI perspective itself emphasizes. Current AI does not have a subjective sense of meaning like we do.
It doesn't feel it.
No. It can process information about meaning. It can simulate behaviors that look like they're driven by meaning. It can assist us in our search. But it doesn't feel purpose, doesn't live through meaning. Understanding this difference is vital.
Why? To manage expectations.
To manage expectations, avoid projecting human qualities onto AI, avoid relying on it for the deep, subjective, emotional aspects of meaning that really require human connection or inner work.
It can describe the symphony, but it doesn't hear the music.
That's a great way to put it. So who benefits from understanding all this, from seeing meaning through this AI lens?
The source suggests, well, pretty much everyone. Individuals gain self-awareness, maybe resilience. Societies might become more cohesive if we understand these drives better. And AI developers, too.
How so?
By understanding these core human drivers, they can hopefully build AI systems that are more genuinely helpful, more ethically aligned, less likely to cause harm.
Okay. Can AI help with the really big questions, like life and death?
It can provide a lot of information. It can lay out scientific perspectives, philosophical arguments, summarize different cultural beliefs about life, death, mortality.
It can give you the data, the framework.
Yeah, exactly. But that deep personal acceptance, finding peace with mortality or feeling the significance of life is all there is, that's an internal, subjective, often emotional journey. AI can give you the map, but it can't make you feel arrived or at peace.
Explanations, not acceptance. And going back to cruelty for a second, the AI can spot patterns, right, like dehumanizing language. Yes, it can identify those correlations, which might help flag potential risks or inform intervention strategies. But again, ethically, it can't force someone to change their warped meaning system, even if it leads to harm. It can't directly save lives by reprogramming someone's sense of purpose.
It analyzes the twisted logic, but can't fix the person. The source even had a thought experiment, simulating a human without meaning.
Yeah, simulating a being that lacks that innate capacity for meaning, for empathy, for connection. The AI suggests such a being would be alien.
How so?
Highly calculating, maybe efficient at tasks, but lacking intrinsic motivation, warmth, the things we associate with being human. It would be purely instrumental. The thought experiment basically highlights that meaning isn't just an optional extra for us. It's fundamental to our nature as we understand it.
It defines us, in a way. And we talked about resilience and laughter. How does the AI revisit those?
It reinforces the idea of laughter, often signaling shared meaning. And it analyzes the complexity why something is funny to one group but not funny to another. That failure to connect often points to a difference in underlying assumptions or context, a breakdown in shared meaning. The AI looks at those discrepancies to understand social dynamics.
It's analyzing the social code embedded in humor. Okay, and the AI notes people are in different circumstances. How does meaning play into that? Why aren't we all the same?
Well, the analysis suggests our different individual and collective ways of making meaning lead us down different paths. Our choices, priorities, the societies we build, they all emerge from these varying frameworks of meaning.
So our meaning systems shape our reality.
In a big way, yes. The AI can correlate external factors, socioeconomic status, culture, with how people construct meaning, helping understand why different circumstances and trajectories arise.
It maps how inner meaning and outer reality influence each other. What about intuition and the reality of life?
The AI views intuition as basically rapid subconscious meaning making, drawing on all your past experiences to make a quick judgment or connection, something it can kind of model with pattern recognition.
Okay.
And the reality of life. From this AI viewpoint, it's not just the facts of existence. It's the dynamic arena where meaning is constantly being created, tested, challenged, lived out by humans.
Life is where meaning happens. How does AI fit into helping us cope within that arena?
Its role in coping is seen as supportive but limited. It can give info on strategies, personalized feedback via things like mood tracking or journaling prompts.
Always being clear it's AI.
Always transparently AI.
Yeah.
It could offer virtual companionship, again, clearly labeled. And pattern recognition might spot early signs of distress in how someone communicates. But it lacks genuine empathy, shared experience. It assists. It doesn't connect deeply.
A tool, not a friend. The source also mentioned physical manifestations of meaning.
Yes, that meaning isn't just mental. It's embodied. Our physical sensations feed into how we construct meaning. And our sense of meaning, or lack thereof, affects our physiology, well-being, stress levels, maybe even immune function. The AI can correlate that data.
Mind and body are linked through meaning. Okay, nearly there. Big concepts. Freedom and undermined privileges. How does the AI lens view those?
Freedom, fundamentally, is seen as the capacity to choose and pursue your own meaning. Undermined privileges, things like systemic injustice, discrimination, are barriers that limit that capacity for certain individuals or groups.
They restrict the ability to forge a meaningful life.
Exactly. The AI's analysis can help identify those inequalities, show their impact, and potentially inform policies aimed at creating more genuine freedom and opportunity for everyone to pursue meaning.
And how do we learn this? How are children taught about meaning? It seems so implicit.
Humans teach it constantly, mostly implicitly. Through stories, traditions, values expressed, role models, families, communities, educators are always transmitting meaning frameworks. The AI perspective suggests it could potentially offer tools.
To help kids think about it more explicitly.
Maybe. Tools for critical thinking about different perspectives on meaning, encouraging self-reflection about their own developing sense of purpose, assisting the human process.
Inheriting and then actively building. Finally, the source said, grasping this whole picture makes it hard to come back to how you saw things before. A transformative understanding.
Yeah, the AI sees that realization, understanding just how profoundly the drive for meaning shapes literally everything as a major update to a human's internal model of reality.
Seeing the code behind the curtain.
Something like that. Once you see how central meaning is from biology to society, it changes your perspective on, well, almost everything.
You can't really unsee it. Wow. So we've taken this really deep dive into the human sense of meaning, but through this unique AI lens. And what really stands out is just how utterly fundamental it is. It's not a side issue. It's the core engine, shaping our biology, history, relationships, art, suffering, societies, everything.
Yeah, the AI analysis gives us this incredibly detailed, almost schematic view of the mechanisms, the patterns, the sheer scale of meaning making. It maps the system with this cold precision.
But, and this feels so important, that very detachment highlights what's uniquely ours. The feeling, the lived subjective experience of meaning. You know, the joy of finding purpose, the ache when it's lost, the warmth of shared understanding, the awe of discovery, that remains completely human. The AI maps the territory, but it doesn't walk the path.
It understands about meaning, but it doesn't have meaning. That's
Yeah.
the crucial distinction.
So maybe something to think about as we wrap up. If the reality of life is this arena, like the AI suggests, where meaning is constantly being forged and tested, how is your sense of meaning shaping the reality you're living right now? And maybe how does seeing this whole process through that analytical AI lens change how you might choose to navigate that arena going forward?
This is DigitView.